Alright guys, now that we have this Lexar PC all booted up and ready to go, let's talk about a couple benchmarks real quick. Now we decided to this PC in a couple of titles, those being Apex Legends, Halo Infinite, Warzone, and Forza Horizon 5. First up in Apex Legends at 1080p on high settings, we ended up averaging 144 plus FPS, most of the time close to 200 FPS. The combination of the 6600 XT and i5-11400 is going to crush any esports title you throw at it, like Apex Legends. Fortnite, for those asking, yes, will definitely run very well on the setup, and because of that i5-11400, which we'll talk more about here in a second, and paired with that Lexar memory that was easily able to lock in at 3600 MHz, we were getting a very smooth gaming experience that's perfect for some high refresh rate gameplay. Next up in Halo Infinite on high settings at 1080p, we ended up averaging 100 plus FPS. I was expecting a little bit worse results than this. It did dip down to 90 a few times, but getting 100 plus FPS on a new AAA title like Halo Infinite on high settings is pretty impressive, and it just goes to show that the 6600 XT can do more than 1080p. You can most certainly play 1440p games on medium settings and get some really good results, so definitely consider picking up a nice 1440p monitor when you are building this PC. Next up in Warzone on medium settings at 1080p, once again we see the 100 plus FPS continue here. Of course you can crank the settings up to high if you prefer better visual quality, but the default settings were medium and we are getting a pretty solid 100 plus FPS, perfect for high refresh rate, and the pairing of that i5-11400 and 6600 XT just make a whole lot of sense. Yes, you could go 12th gen if you really wanted to get a upgrade path in the future, but you will be spending more money, and also you will have to sacrifice for a DDR4 board. 10th and 11th gen is still the sweet spot in my opinion, and why we're going to continue to do builds with them as long as they're available on the main retailers like Amazon, Newegg, and places like that. When they start becoming hard to get, we probably won't use them as much, but the fact that you can get B460, B560 boards and pick up an i5 10th or 11th gen and pretty much any GPU you throw at it would be perfectly fine with that. We're definitely going to keep recommending that as the best value option to get into PC gaming, especially with how expensive GPUs are right now. And the last game we decided to test was Forza Horizon 5 on the high preset using the built-in benchmark, and we averaged 123 FPS. Once again, this build is great for pretty much any game you throw at it. 100 plus FPS, 1080p, stretch into 1440p on medium-ish settings, and you'll definitely get a 60 plus FPS experience. Once again, thanks to Lexar as well for sponsoring this build. That NM620 SSD was able to load these games up super fast, and that Hades RGB memory looks so beautiful inside this RGB build, and it also worked really well with XMP. That is really what you want to see with memory nowadays to make sure you're getting the most FPS possible. So now we finished the benchmarking section of today's video. I would bring Jackson back in here to wrap this video up real quick.